What happened to Crystal Maiden that made her go from unpicked to broken? According to Dotabuff, in the TI8 regional qualifiers, all of the regional qualifiers a few weeks ago, Crystal Maiden was only picked in 7 matches. She sported a reasonable 57% win rate, but the numbers tell the story that there are simply much better supports to pick, else they would have picked Crystal Maiden more. Or if you want to look at it the negative way, you could say Crystal Maiden is bad. So why was Crystal Maiden not popular in this patch? The simplest answer is that she has terrible stats and she's really weak in lane. So why was she picked in the past then? Part of it is that the things that made Crystal Maiden good in the past don't really apply as much in today's meta. In the past, tri-lanes were more common, and Crystal Maiden fit in there really well. In tri-lane versus solo offlane, your goal as the tri-lane is to kill the offlane hero when they attempt to get close, and to pull creeps and roam once the offlane is zoned. In that way, Crystal Maiden worked great. With 1 point of Frostbite, which you always skilled at level 1, your hero can deal a massive 150 damage with that skill alone. There just aren't a lot of skills in Dota that deal that much damage at level 1. In addition, she also prevented their retreat towards the tower, giving your 3 heroes more time to chase and attack, and you can even cancel a teleport scroll if the offlane tries to escape that way. On top of that, in the past when neutral creeps would spawn at the 0-minute 30-second mark, you could go into the jungle as Crystal Maiden, you could kill 1 large neutral creep with 1 Frostbite, then you could stack the camp at the 1-minute mark when the camp respawns, and then you could kill the second large neutral creep and hit a fast level 2. By doing this, you could then skill your aura really quickly around 1 minute 15 seconds into the game to get a fast level 2, get your aura, and then your aura would give yourself and everybody else in the game on your team a lot more mana in their lanes, which they could then use to farm better, harass more, and all of those other good things. Since not many heroes in Dota could jungle at the time, this is a really big benefit for Crystal Maiden and one of the reasons that she was useful. Let's go back to today's version of Dota 2. First of all, the jungle is not what it used to be. Neutral creeps give far less experience than they used to, so Crystal Maiden can't hit a fast level 2. Also, the first neutral spawn doesn't even start until the 1st minute mark now, so even if you want to jungle, you can't even head there until later. And to address the very slow elephant in the room, Crystal Maiden has a handful of awful base stats. She's one of the slowest heroes in the game at 275 base movement speed. Only 3 heroes are slower in Dota today. She has a terrible mana pool for an int hero at level 1 with her measly 14 intelligence, and that leaves her with about 280 mana. That means she can only cast 2 Frostbites before being empty. Her defense also leaves something to be desired with a base HP of 524 and a base armor of 2.6. Her attack animation is super slow, and her base damage is atrocious at 43 damage on average. In terms of raw ability at level 1, Crystal Maiden is one of the worst heroes. Her one redeeming quality is that Frostbite deals 150 damage, and has a very respectable 9-second cooldown, all yours for only 1 skill point. That's her shining star. Why all of this matters so much in the current patch is that dual lanes are everything in competitive Dota right now. The reason why has to do with denied experience, and that all changed in a huge way in the 7.0 patch last October. In the past, when a creep was denied, any enemies standing nearby would still get a large chunk of experience from the creep, 70%. They could stand near the creep wave, watch every creep get denied, and still gain 70% of the wave experience. In 7.07, that changed. Denied creeps now grant 25% of the normal experience instead of 70%. That means standing in a wave that is denied is a huge losing experience, especially because denying a creep also gives your hero 25% of that experience. That's right, they get as much experience from denying as you do from watching it happen. Because of this, having domination of the creeps is everything during the laning stage right now. If you can zone the enemy heroes from even attempting to last hit, you'll get all the gold from your last hits, and about 5 times more experience than the enemies in lane. So to win the lane, it helps to have 2 heroes. That's 2 heroes attacking, harassing, casting spells, and so on. It's much harder to gank and zone 2 heroes from the offlane, so it's easier to stick in the lane and continue last hitting and denying. If you win that last hitting battle, that's an advantage that will help you dominate in the mid game. That is why Crystal Maiden is bad right now, because she's bad in the early game when fighting to the death. She isn't survivable, she's slow, and she deals crappy damage outside of the 2-ish Frostbites you get. To solve the only 2 Frostbite problem, you need to spend starting gold on Clarities or Mangoes, which means less health regen, which is a problem in itself when you're talking about the laning stage. So the next best solution is to hit level 2 relatively fast, so at least you give yourself really good mana regen with your aura, then you can cast more than 2 Frostbites. That solves part of the problem, but she's still weak, especially at the start of the game before you hit level 2. So, in comes Ice Frog, the man who makes crappy heroes relevant again. If we look at his recent buffs to Crystal Maiden, the CM targeted ones were things like +2 damage, a nice addition but small, and changes in scaling of her aura to make it much better with just a single skill point. In fact, 1 point in Arcane Aura today gives 1.8 mana per second. In 7.07, for example, it was 1 mana per second. So this helps her cast more Frostbites once she hits level 2, since she'll get far more mana over time, but she's still struggling, so Ice Frog buffed her other skill, Crystal Nova. He lowered the cooldown at all levels by 1 second, and then in the most recent 7.18 patch, he buffed it even further, increasing the level 1 damage from 100 to 130. Now when I read through this patch change, I thought, nice. It's obvious he wants everyone to skill Crystal Maiden by going Frostbite first, then Aura because it's a value 1 point skill, then Crystal Nova at level 3. Her level 1 is still about the same, but by the time you're level 3, you can do a massive 280 magic damage with your 2 skills. That's super good. I'm obviously guessing here at what Ice Frog thought, so now let's get to why CM is broken. It's not just because of Ice Frog, it's more about player decisions. Sometimes in Dota 2, you need a player much better than you to suggest something. If a worse player suggests it, you might tell that player why it's a stupid idea, why nobody does that right now, and why it won't work. In this way, I love the history of strategy in Dota 2 because it helps you learn flexibility in your ideas. What I heard earlier today was, get Crystal Nova at level 1. This was goddamn heresy. People have been getting Frostbite at level 1 on Crystal Maiden for like 12 years at this point. And then it all made sense. Back to dual lanes. Dual lanes is about fighting heroes and trading hits. Let's look at the 2 skills in comparison right before this recent patch. Crystal Nova dealt 100 damage and it cost 100 mana to cast. It had a 12-second cooldown at level 1. Frostbite deals 150 damage and it costs 140 mana to cast. It has a 9-second cooldown at level 1. Frostbite is better obviously. It does more damage per mana to cast it, and it has lower cooldown, right? Wrong, idiots. Sometimes you gotta change what you know about Dota to find something overpowered and then abuse it. Even before Crystal Nova was buffed to do 130 damage, it was the better skill to get at level 1. You want proof? Let's look at the 7 times Crystal Maiden was played during the TI regional qualifiers. First props goes to Fnatic Pile Die. He played CM first and 3 times of those 7 total games. All 3 games, he skilled Nova at level 1 and got Arcane Aura at level 2. We've also got Smork from Entity Gaming, he was also in the C region, who played CM 3 games, and he got Nova at level 1 2 of those 3 games. All of these games are before Crystal Nova got buffed recently from Ice Frog. Now, why is Crystal Nova better at level 1 than Frostbite? Here's the old numbers again. Crystal Nova deals 100 damage for 100 mana, so maybe it's good because you can cast it 3 times before you run out of mana. That's pretty cool. Well, yeah, that part's alright, but primarily it's because it's AoE. That means in a dual lane, you aren't just frostbiting one guy, you're using Crystal Nova on 2 guys. In a battle of dual lane regen, bam, you're doing 200 damage for 100 mana. That's 2 damage per mana if you hit 2 heroes. Frostbite is a lower 1.07 damage per mana. That's almost twice as good. What about damage per skill point though? Frostbite wins there, right? Wrong. When you hit 2 heroes, Nova deals 200 damage per 1 skill point, with Frostbite dealing 150 damage per skill point. That means at level 1 Nova is so much better, and we thought Frostbite was good. How about the cast range? Nova has a far longer cast range than Frostbite, and it's ground targeted AoE. That means the center of your circle is the max range. So the real maximum cast range of Nova is this. That's frickin' 800 units. During Frostbite animation, if your enemy cuts into trees or out of vision, your Frostbite stops casting. That dude is gone. Crystal Nova doesn't give a shit about vision. In fact, it provides you vision where it messes up Frostbite scrubs. Chasing up a hill? No fucking problem. Are they trying to hide in trees and use salve? Break his knees and his items. Are you convinced yet? Better yet, if you're up against a hero and he's about to deny a range creep, which is a heaping 69 experience, Nova that creep and hero and his friend. Triple benefit from Nova. Frostbite can't do that for 100 mana. How about the utility of a movement and attack speed slow? Crystal Nova slows people for 4.5 seconds. That's 20% slower attack speed and 20% slower movement speed. So not only are you dealing 2 damage per mana to your opponents, but while they beat you to death because you're still Crystal Maiden and you can't do shit, they actually do it a little bit slower. That ain't bad. Have you ever looked at the damage stats of when you feed First Blood at Bounty Runes? It's almost all physical attacks. That means Nova is pretty damn good at damage mitigation in the early game. And then Ice Frog went and buffed Nova by 30% damage at level 1. Now, using Nova on 2 heroes means I'm doing 260 damage for 100 mana. That's 2.6 damage per mana and 260 damage per skill point, while slowing their movement and attack speed. Frostbite is 1.07 and 150 per skill point. What a shit spell. And because Arcane Aura has been buffed so much to try and make Frostbite appealing, the new build combination of Nova at 1 and Arcane Aura at 2 combines for a constant barrage of Novas. With the damage per mana numbers, we can look at a level 2 Crystal Maiden and say that the about 2.5 mana per second that she gets from her aura translates to 6.5 damage per second. If she has Frostbite instead, that's 2.675 damage per second, about 40% as much. That's why Crystal Maiden is broken right now. If you don't get Crystal Nova at level 1 and Arcane Aura at level 2, you are making a terrible mistake. But honestly, I don't blame Ice Frog too much here for the Nova buff. That's because there were 2 separate factors that went into Crystal Maiden getting broken. Factor 1, the biggest one, was that the conventional way to play the hero in the current meta was not the best. No one skilled Crystal Nova at level 1 in public pro Dota unless you're Pylai or Smork. And these dudes were skilling Crystal Nova thinking it was good and worth picking Crystal Maiden for before it was made better by 30%. Ice Frog's buff is factor 2. This is one of the things that I love about Dota the most. What breaks a hero? Ice Frog is sometimes the culprit, but many other times it's the people who play the game. Someone picks Crystal Maiden and looks at the skills and realizes that, hey, this Crystal Nova is actually pretty good to spam against enemy heroes. And once that gets figured out and players start losing to that strategy, they'll move on and try it themselves. Hell, maybe Dota Plus showed a couple people that maybe they should skill Crystal Nova at level 1 because those players have a higher win rate. Who knows? In that way, Dota pub games, where we sometimes smash our heads against a wall, are really a giant game of telephone. Streams are the same way. Dota strategy and ideas spread from match to match with one player feeling joy abusing a strong strat, and another frustrated that they're attacking 20% slower. And at this point, I'm not quite sure if Ice Frog realized the playstyle of the hero was about to be changed before increasing Crystal Nova damage by 30% at level 1. There were so many games of Dota 2 that happened during the regionals that something as simple as a blasphemous skill build change could have easily flown under the radar, or even on a popular team such as Fnatic. In Crystal Maiden's case here, the breaking of the hero came down to skill build variations, but it can also be something like a smart item build that no one has tried before. It could be a hero combination like picking Morphling against Gyrocopter so that you can abuse Flak Cannon. And that's why Dota is beautiful, because all of these hero strengths and weaknesses change over time, and at any moment, anyone can discover something overpowered with some creative thinking. I just found out about this trend and I was excited about it, so I made this video to tell you guys the story of Crystal Maiden, Frostbite, and Crystal Nova. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing the details. Thanks for watching.